Hey there.
Hello!
And welcome to Gen Con!
My name is Jordan. I'm making my on screen debut. I'm often lurking in the chat.
You're Jordan.
Yes. That's me, along with my several secret aliases that I use to try to seed, the right opinions.
Descent.
Dissent and opinion. You have to have the right proportion for it to seem realistic, but also to make it clear that everyone feels the way we want them to.
Sure.
I'm joking, obviously. Anyway, welcome to our stream for today. Event registration is opening this Sunday at noon Eastern Time. And so we've gathered here, me and Derek, who's senior. What is your job title now?
Senior Event and Program Manager.
That's awesome. He got a senior. He's grown older. He's leveled up.
Yep, I got
He's
some
like
gray
a very
hairs in there
special.
somewhere.
Yes. He's like a Pokemon, just grayer. And so we're gonna go through some basic information about what events are at Gen Con, how they work differently from other conventions you might have been to, and how to get tickets for them. And then we'll kind of give you a walkthrough of the whole process, because it is a lot. This will be my fifth Gen Con working.
Really? Is it that many?
Yes.
Time flies.
This will be number 5. But I have never attended as an attendee, so I haven't gone and got my own tickets or anything really. I started working.
So you haven't played in any events?
I always try to go to one event a year, but
did you get a ticket for it?
I have gotten a ticket.
All right.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're going to say you got some homework for this year.
Yes. So I know some things, but not everything. No one can. But so anyway, why don't we sort of start with the basics here?
Yep.
What are events at Gen Con? What are the tickets, and why should I get them?
Sure. Well, so events at Gen Con could be anything from going and playing a game, like a D&D game with 4 people, to going to the costume contest with 1,000 people, to going to the Destruction of Card Hollow with however many people can fit in the hallway. So, like, an event at Gen Con just kind of translates to anything that is happening that attendees can go do in kind of some capacity. The show is very much about, like, active things and participating in things. That's kind of the nature of Gen Con, basically. So, last year we had, I want to say, like 17,000 separate individual events that happened over the weekend. And they all ranged in scale from 2-player card games to 1,200 people watching the costume contest. So there's a wide range of things. And part of the reason that all works at Gen Con, and we don't have huge lines for each individual event, is because we do a registration system where you have the opportunity, if you want, to plan your whole weekend out, and you know everything you're going to do, and you have your tickets, and your seat is reserved, and you know when you're supposed to show up, where you're supposed to show up. You just need to bring your stuff, sit down, and play. So that alleviates some of the queuing or some other things. Some of the large events will still have a line to get in to hand in your ticket. Some HQs for different gaming groups will have lines to process people and stuff like that. There's obviously a line to pick up your stuff at will call, but otherwise there aren't a whole lot of lines that you need to worry about. It's not like a normal, or not a normal, but not like maybe like a pop culture convention, where there's the exhibit hall, and then there are some major panels you go to, and there are some signings and things like that, and all of those have large queue lines for them. Instead of the queue line, we have this registration system, and we have the wish list, so that people can get the ticket to what they want, hopefully, at the time they want, hopefully, or at least it will let them know whether it's sold out or not, so they don't have to wait in line to find out. So that means that we have a system that's designed to have all these events, so it gives you the details on what they are, like when they are. You can add them to your wish list. That's what's happening on Sunday. So right now, people can't get tickets to anything, so nothing is sold out yet. But people will be building wish lists, and they'll be submitting those wish lists on Sunday and seeing what tickets they get back. And that's when events will start filling up and selling out, and people get real excited.
Yeah, and I think that's important. The two things, or the couple things there that are important to note are really there's a huge number of events at Gen Con, but also just like the breadth of different types of events. I mean, I'm still, 5 years in, finding events that I, didn't know existed. There's like, I mean, so it's everything from, it's every kind of like RPG and card game and board game you can think of, but there's also just like stuff that you would never imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, apparently there's a 5K run. I've never seen it before,
Yep,
but
the Orc Stomp 5K.
people tell me that it exists.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things that we, can't mention in front of children, and there's also things that are great to mention in front of children. So it's really something for everyone.
Yeah, like that's the other kind of core experience of Gen Con is that it is a huge show. There's 60,000 people who show up, but there's also, again, 20,000 things happening. So it's a very distributed convention. There's a different event for almost everybody. There's events for games that haven't been in print in 20 years. There are events for games that haven't been released yet. There's a whole kind of gamut of possible events or experiences or things like that. But that also means that the show is very, very distributed across the convention. So the convention itself fills the convention center. It fills the stadium. It fills, I believe, 8 surrounding hotels that have assigned convention space, and that's not even including the hotel rooms that people might be in, or people playing in the lobby. Like, pretty much Wednesday morning onward, you can tell that you're at Gen Con no matter where you go, because like just about any flat surface is covered in people playing games of some kind.
All over the place.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that makes Gen Con special is that if you want, you can go and for all 4 days just walk around the exhibit hall and see cool people and stuff, and that's great.
You can go to the exhibit hall, you could play demos, you could shop, you can, there's a ton of things that you can do for free without tickets.
Exactly.
There's wandering entertainers in the hallway. There's the balloon sculptor, card halla. There's a variety of stuff you can participate in, but there's a whole like wealth that's the real kind of like juice of Gen Con that is around the event schedule.
Yeah, and so just like playing an RPG or a more complicated board game, the more work that you want to put in before and the more research you want to do sort of defines what you get out of it. So what we're going to go over now is what we've sort of gone over a bit what types of events they are. So we're going to talk about what you need to do in order to get tickets, the types of tickets that there are, and then we're going to really dive into the event catalog, the event finder, and show you how it all works. We're going to bring up the screen so you can really see step by step how to find events, how to put them into your wish list for Sunday, and how to continue to be getting tickets all the way up to the show this year.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really want to emphasize too is that it's overwhelming to have so many events happen on the show. It's overwhelming for the event team to manage to place and review all that. So there's no way, there's a couple things. There's no way that one person is going to experience all of Gen Con or the definitive Gen Con experience. It's so many different things to so many different people. You're not going to be able to experience it all. So that feeling that you're missing out on something, it's not going to go away. You're just going to have to kind of accept that and enjoy what you can, what you can find. So don't worry about that. Just find the things that you love and go do those things. Don't worry about the stuff that you might otherwise be doing. Just have fun. And then second, especially if you're new to this, don't worry about booking your full schedule. Don't worry about booking everything. Just consider maybe getting a couple tickets. Maybe one event a day, or maybe what you want to do is you decide that there's a particular game you love that you don't want to leave Gen Con without playing. Get a ticket for that. Just kind of figure out what your goals are and then do those. And then don't worry if you missed out on the exhibit hall, or if you want to spend time in the exhibit hall and you miss out on some events, that's okay too. There'll always be Gen Con next year.
It's all good stuff, but there's too much of it to do all of it.
You only got so much time in the day.
So a good tip if you're new or if you've come a couple times but have never gotten an event ticket is, look through the catalog, pick one or two things that are really you or that really excite you, and get a couple tickets, because it's going to give you a little structure today. You're going to get to dive in and see something that's in a different room and meet people. But on the other hand, don't just because you can, don't fill events 24 hours a day. You know,
Yep.
you can get a ticket to play, you know, Are You a Werewolf at 4 in the morning. I know I've heard them, but and if that's your jam, then great, do it. But
Yep.
don't feel like you need to add that
Yep.
4 a.m. event on top of the 10 that you've already done.
Yep. Unless you know what you're doing, don't book yourself back to back.
Yeah.
Like if you're new at this, like one event a day.
Yeah.
If you've kind of gotten used to it, 2-3 events a day, probably not more than 8 hours of scheduled events a day.
Yeah,
And then once you're used to that, like if you're hardcore into Pathfinder Society or D&D or something like that, you know, then go ahead and dive in and block out your full day. But otherwise, I'd recommend keeping yourself a little flexible.
Yeah, and the other thing to think about too is, you know, the convention center is a large area. If you have an event that's in, you know, that's in the convention center, you know, that's in a certain part, and then your next event happens to be over in a hotel or in the stadium, you're not going to want to do it back to back. Another thing to note about that is that when you look at events now, not all of them will have location data on them, and the reason for that is that for a bunch of events, we want to wait to see how many people are actually going to be in them in order to place them appropriately.
Yep. It takes time to go through placement.
Yeah.
Some details are still being confirmed. And also, the longer we can wait to do placement, the more flexibility we have to try to accommodate when an event sells out and the event organizer really wants to add more space so more people can play. So, what else have we got?
Okay, so event types. When you look at an event, each event has a unique ID code.
I'm gonna change up our display.
Okay, yeah,
You
let's
ready?
pull it up. Let's pull it up.
Boom.
There it is. You can see the dragon and the events.
So category is what we're talking about.
Yeah, so we have event categories. So when you look at an event listing or an event ticket, there is a unique event ID number that goes with each one. And the first 3 letters of that are going to indicate what event category it is. And so a category is sort of one of the broadest ways that we define and sort events, and that the way you're going to want to look for them. So that could be everything from you know, you're excited about playing some historical minis. There's a category there for that. And yeah, and that's right. A good thing to note here is, so he's clicked the red filter button here to the left, and then you're able to sort by a variety of things. So since we're talking now about categories, if you are like, I am into historical minis, I want to see what they got going on with historical minis, you can click that. And sort and open it up. You can also select multiple categories here. So if you're like, I want historical minis, but you know, other minis are good too. So miniature hobby events, non-historical miniatures, you know, let's see the whole gamut.
And now you'll just be seeing just those events.
Yeah.
So, but I think what we're trying to get at too is like letting people know what these categories mean. So to go through them very briefly, you know, anime events are screenings, panels, seminars, things like that, all related to anime and animation. We have board games, which is pretty self-explanatory, although the line between board games and non-collectible tradable card games is a little fuzzy sometimes. So sometimes you might see a game listed in one or the other. Electronic games is anything that, you know, uses a console, a computer, an arcade machine, things like that. Entertainment events, those are performances of some kind. It could be a comedy performance, a musical performance. It could be celebrities playing a game on stage. Could be like Puppet Slam, things like that. But it's a performance for an audience, basically. We have the Film Fest. Film Fest is where we have screenings, some seminars and workshops and stuff like that. But it's basically films, short films, long films, documentaries that are all like by gamers or for gamers or about gamers or about gaming properties and things like that. We have historical miniatures, which is, you know, relatively self-evident. It is a miniatures game trying to simulate some sort of historical situation or scenario or battle or war. Isle of Misfit Events, this is what we call the Z category. This is a broad category for anything that doesn't fit somewhere else. So Are You a Werewolf goes here, a lot of social deduction games go here, a lot of events that might involve multiple games, like it might be a tournament where you play one game and then you hop to another game, then you hop to another game, or it might be a group that has multiple games available at once, like a game night or something like that. So Isle of Misfit Events is kind of an interesting catch-all category where if you're looking for something a little bit different, go check there. Kids activities are things that are targeted towards children for younger attendees. This is also the category, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but you know, young attendees don't need a badge. This is the only category of events that they can attend without a badge. We have LARPs. LARPs are, if you're not familiar, are kind of like role-playing games where you will get up and stay in character and often be in costume, kind of walk around a space. The GM is often kind of, less prominent, or you have to role play kind of with other players more directly. We have miniature hobby events, and these are all events that are around painting, building, sculpting, modifying, working on almost everything about minis other than playing the game.
Okay, so if I want to go and play Warhammer or something, that's not going to be in miniature hobby events,
Correct.
but that's going to be in non-historical miniatures.
Correct.
Although I do believe that the events of Warhammer are historical.
They are prehistorical.
Prehistorical.
They have yet to happen.
Yes. Okay. And then but miniature hobby events might be like, I'm going to go and learn how to paint the minis.
I'm going to learn how to paint, or I'm going to learn how to base, or this could be a workshop on how to use green stuff to sculpt faces or scales or something like that. So if you really kind of want to up your hobby side of the game, that's where you go. So we have non-collectible, tradable card games. These are card games that are not randomized in booster packs, not Magic kind of things. We have non-historical miniatures, which is, as we discussed, are things like Warhammer or War Machine, things like that. It's the playing of those games. We have role-playing games. This would be where D&D, Pathfinder, World of Darkness, Savage Worlds, those kinds of things would all be listed here. So you're sitting around a table with your friends, you have a character, you have a story, you probably have some stats, and you're playing through it. You probably have a GM. Seminar, these are all free. Seminars are a presentation or discussion on a topic. The host is going to, and the guests are going to talk about something, or they're going to present something to you. This might be where a company is going to talk about their upcoming releases for the year, or change their business model, something like that. Spouse activities, these are things that are something other than gaming related, but are still of interest to gamers. So brewery tours, haunted tours of the area, yoga classes, crafting. Some of them are still kind of nerdy, like you have chainmail dice bags and stuff like that, like chainmail greaves. There's a lot of like small costuming component workshops in there. But a lot of them are also like getting out of the convention and then going and trying something else. I think there was like a sushi making class last year. Might be wine and whiskey tasting as well. Definitely some brewery tours, things like that. Tradable card games. These are specifically the really competitive. Like you build your deck. Booster pack kind of Magic stuff. So Magic would be in here, Yu-Gi-Oh would be in here, Dragon Ball Z would be in here, Final Fantasy would be in here, those kinds of games. So Trade Day, this is a special category for stuff that's just happening on Wednesday. These are all events for professionals, librarians, designers, distributors, retailers, things like that, who are trying to connect with other people in the industry, trying to talk about how to use games in those environments, how to sell games in those environments, how to make them, things like that. It's a really good chance for folks to kind of network and connect with distributors or retailers if they need to. And you need a Trade Day badge for that, but that's a whole kind of separate topic, and that's linked off the website if people are curious about it. So then you have True Dungeon Adventures. These are, if you're not familiar, are really huge, immersive, almost like a sequence of multiple puzzle rooms that you travel through a path on. So, if you're familiar with puzzle rooms, or if you've kind of seen the craze going around, True Dungeon has been doing this for quite a long time now, and they have a very long history. They're one of the highest demand events at the show. So if you really want to play, you really kind of got to be on the ball to get some tickets for it. But it is effectively, again, just a sequence of these different puzzle rooms that would have one encounter in each. Sometimes it's a combat encounter, sometimes it's a role-playing encounter, or a puzzle encounter. There's usually two tracks. That's like one combat heavy, one puzzle heavy. It's just really, really cool. A lot of people feel like True Dungeon is one of the events that you have to go to at the show to really experience Gen Con.
Yeah, and I went to I did a True Dungeon run for the first time this last year, and I went with folks who were like, there's this whole like subculture of True Dungeon, like devotees, and you get these tokens as a part of it, that can be like items or power-ups or other things, and there's like a whole subculture of like collecting and trading these tokens. So I was going with, and these people had like just like the god tokens. They were just like invincible. So even though I had never played before, they were like, oh, I'm gonna give you this and this and this. But it's impressive. There were the things that they have built up there. You wouldn't know it from walking by, but there's some really cool things.
Yep. And then finally, the category of workshop. And workshop is a little interesting because it's different from seminar in that the workshop has a price usually, but specifically it is hands-on experience.
Okay.
It is directly crafting or producing something, or it is a little bit more like a classroom experience where a teacher might teach a class of like 20 people, and you might feel that you kind of walk away knowing a skill now or knowing something that you didn't know before.
Okay.
Whereas a seminar is more of a presentation to people, if that makes sense. Workshop has a little bit more of an opportunity to kind of go back and forth.
And so, like, workshop, that might be where there's a thing. So we talked earlier about like there's those chainmail crafting events. So there are some events like that where the event ticket is going to cost a little more, but that's because it includes materials and you get to walk away with something cool.
And the event description will explain that. But the idea of building a chainmail dice bag and leaving with the dice bag, a lot of those events are in workshop or spousal activities. So to answer chat's question of what is spouse, spouse activities are kind of a broad catch-all term for events that happen at Gen Con that are not necessarily directly related to gaming or kind of nerdy pursuits.
Yeah, and we also call that like supplemental activities, or it's abbreviated SPA. So it's sort of like things that we may have once considered like it's the non-gamer with you who wants to play them, but really it's just like it's this kind of non-gaming specific category of events, but that are also like of gaming culture. Yep.
Yeah. So it's a really good category to check out, even if you're not there with your spouse. If you just want a break, like again, there's brewery tours. I think they have those carts that you get in and pedal while you drink all around now. Those are in that category now too. So check that out.
Yeah.
So to answer the other chat question that came up, True Dungeon Adventures was asked if it's like a LARP. It's similar to that in that you have an environment and you are welcome and encouraged to show up in costume and stuff like that, but it's not necessarily like kind of a traditional LARP in that you are not expected to emphasize the role playing. You don't usually have like a backstory to your character or a secret motivation or things like that. But it has a lot of the same kind of visual similarities and that same immersive feeling. There's some of the other escape rooms, I think, at the show have some of those traits, but True Dungeon is kind of unique in that it's a sequence of many of them that are themed differently every year.
And you'll walk into a room and then there'll be someone playing an NPC, and then they'll either be you'll battle against them or they'll tell you, they'll present you a puzzle or etc.
Yep. So those are the categories. What are we going to cover next?
Okay. So for all of these events, you can get an event ticket for them, a specific ticket. Or we also have generic tickets. So talk a little bit about the difference between that.
Yep, so you can get an event ticket to a specific event. If you know you want to play in something, you can get an event ticket to it and your seat is confirmed. But not all events sell out, or some events will have people who buy tickets and don't show up, or there are also some events that you can't pre-register for that you have to get generics for. And generics are just... they're kind of like carnival tokens. Like if you were to go to a carnival or if you were to go to like Chuck E. Cheese and you have tokens you can spend on different games like an arcade or something like that, you put your money in and get your tokens out. They're a lot like that. The event ticket guarantees you the spot, but the generic ticket allows you to get into any event that has a spot available or can accommodate you. You just need to have a number of generic tickets equal to whatever the cost of the ticket would be.
Yeah. So if I want to go to, a chainmail workshop and it sells out really quick because everybody wants to have, a chainmail dice bag, and I'm really bummed out. I'm like, oh, I really wanted to go to that event, but it's sold out. Just because it sells out doesn't necessarily mean I can't get in. I can, if that's really a high priority for me, I can get some generic tickets. and go 5 or 10 minutes before the event's supposed to start and ask the GM or the event organizer, hey, I'm here, I've got generics. If you have any additional room, or if someone hasn't shown up, because often people's plans change, and they aren't able to show up to event. This is particularly true for events that are free or lower cost too.
Yep, yep. So we have another question from chat asking about what you could do for your birthday, and the answer to that would be depends on what you're into.
You're at Gen Con.
Yep, there's a whole lot of stuff to do. Yeah. And the other question is, how do you find a game that has a lot of terrain or a specific DM? And in that case, if you're looking for a specific DM, your best bet is to actually just ask that GM what event they're running. You can search for specific names if you download the spreadsheet catalog. Some of the third-party websites that people maintain can do that. But for a lot of terrain, there's not really a tag for this game has a lot of terrain. It's more you'll have to just look for games that you are interested in, or if you know that there are groups that do lots of terrain, like there might be a miniature group that has really impressive terrain, or there might be an RPG group. Usually those are things that are called out in the event description. So you just want to read through and see what the description says, and see if that intrigues you, and if that sounds like a cool event, sign up for it.
Yeah. Looks like another question. You don't have to pre-order, but can do drop-in stuff? And the answer is yes. You don't necessarily have to pre-order, but the advantage of pre-ordering a ticket is that you have a spot at that event, so you can count on at 3 p.m. I'm going to this minis event and I have a spot. If you decide the day of, you're at the convention, you're like, oh, I actually have some time this afternoon, and I saw some people doing a mini event that had really cool terrain, and so then you might see one of their events listed and go show up and see if they have room.
Yeah, that's one thing you can frequently do is if an event sells out, look for other events by that company.
Yeah.
Or if you're at the show and you see something that's really cool, then in the application, in our mobile app, you can just look up to see what other events they have, and you'll be able to see which events still have tickets available. So you can either buy a ticket at that point, or you can show back up at that time with generics and hope that you can get in.
And generics you can buy on site. If you're in the event hall, you're playing games, and you've run out, you can go to your local event HQ, the one that's nearest to you, and they can sell you generic tickets on the spot too.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that you get a million generics.
Right.
So, again, if we're trying to give some advice to new attendees or people who haven't really experimented with events before, again, I'd recommend maybe picking one event a day that you sign up for, and then maybe buying like $10 of generics, because that's a reasonable volume that you'll be able to get into 99% of games. But if you don't spend them all, it won't be a huge loss, basically. Yeah. It should keep you set, but if you find a game and you spend all of your generics on Thursday, you can just go get more.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be better to run out on, and then go buy more than have too many. You can return them if you bring them to customer service during the show, but they'll go to system credit only, so you can use that system credit later. But you have to return them, before they close on Sunday. So yeah, something to keep in mind.
So it's just one more thing to worry about on Sunday.
Yeah. So the last subject on types of event tickets is we have a growing number of events that are electronically ticketed. That's something new we started last year, and there's going to be even more of those this year. So you want to introduce that a little bit?
Sure. So an electronic ticket works like a normal paper ticket, with the exception that it is just tied to your badge. So if you have an electronic ticket, you're never going to be given a physical ticket for that event. No physical tickets for that event will be issued. You just need to show up with your badge, and the event organizer will scan your badge. It will say you got a ticket. It'll let you sit down, and everything will be, ready to go. So you just need to remember to have your badge, and you'll be all set.
And so the two key things to note there is it's not all events that are electronically ticketed. It's specific events that are electronically ticketed. And for those events, they're only electronically ticketed.
Correct. There's no mixing, there's no crossing of the streams, basically.
Right. Yeah. So so how do I know when my event is e-ticketed?
I don't think all the electronic tickets are indicated in the system right now. But when you go into an event, let's pick like this one here. the very bottom, it'll say what ticketing type it is.
There you go.
So
paper.
when the electronic tickets are designated,
Yeah.
it'll say here as electronic.
Yeah.
And then if you view your schedule once you have signed up for an event, then it will also indicate there.
Mhm. You know, while we've got that open, why don't we open an event and just run through the information that's on this listing just real quickly.
Sure.
So when you pull open an event here, they've got the game ID, like we said before, and so you'll see in the game ID, it starts with RPG, and see the categories there. You've got the gaming group, so if you start to see events that you're interested in, you can look
So
what other events they're running.
If you click on that, it'll just show you all events run by that group.
Yeah. And then next they've got the title of the game, so you can also sort by that.
Yep. So if you click on that, it'll just show you everything that title appears.
Then you've got short description, long description, the event type again they're listed, and you can click on that. It'll sort by that. Same with game system. You could click and find all the Dungeon World events in this case. And then information about rules, minimum, maximum number of players, age, experience, materials. So you can really get a lot of information about what the event's going to be like. Do you need to have your own character if it's an RPG? Is this a game for people who are really experienced at that particular system? Or is this something where you can be like, I've always wanted to try Dungeon World. I can walk up and learn how to play. You've got the date and time, pretty self-explanatory, duration, and then locations. You can start to plan out where your how your schedule is going to flow, where you need to be at which time of the day.
And this is where the GM is listed, and this is also where, if the event organizer provided an email address for more details, that's where that's going to be listed. So if you have any questions about this event, if you aren't sure about something, you can always contact the event organizer, because this is mostly what we know about the event. So if you ask us something, we may not have more details, but we can route it to the appropriate people who should.
All right, so now we've gone over what events are, what tickets are, what types of tickets there are. So next, how do I get tickets? What is the process by which I get these things?
Sure. Well, so you are going to register for events. In the near term, you're going to build a wish list because you can't buy tickets yet. On Sunday, you'll be able to submit your wish list, and then the tickets that were available from your wish list that the system could get for you, you'll have an opportunity to buy. And to answer the question that came up in chat, you pay when you buy the ticket. Your spot is not reserved until you've paid and checked out, basically.
Correct. Yeah.
So on Sunday, you'll be able to submit your wish list, you'll get your tickets, you'll buy them, and then after that, once all the wish lists have been processed, then it is just a case of going to the event and adding the ticket to your cart and then checking out, and you'll be good to go. So and that's also when generics will become available too.
Yeah. So the steps here are: you need a badge before you can get event tickets. And you need to have a badge for that day. So if you have a 4-day badge, then you can buy an event ticket for any of the 4 days. But if you have a Friday badge, you can't get tickets for a Saturday event. So we have this feature, this wish list feature, which is really just for the period between when the catalog was released, which is a little over a week ago, and when event registration opens this Sunday. So this week, we recommend you build a wish list, which you can then, and we'll show you how to do that too. And then you can go in and submit it right when event registration opens on Sunday. After that point, you will no longer use a wish list. You would just go, if you saw an event you wanted, you would just go straight to adding it to your cart and then checking out.
Basically, the only purpose of the wish list, the only time the wish list is really useful, is during that initial kind of rush on Sunday. Because there's so many people trying to get into a limited number of events. The wish list is a way to, in one click, you can send both your top picks and your later picks to make sure that you get something out. And
the question here, which is totally related to that, can you have events overlap? So when you're starting to plan out your schedule, add them to your wish list, how does that work?
So the wish list is designed to have events that overlap. That's the point of the wish list. You would put in an event that you would want to play, and then you'd put in some backups to that event to make sure that in case you can't get your top pick, that you get hopefully something further down your line. For most events, you will not ultimately be able to double book yourself. Your wish list will skip any events that you can't get a ticket to because you're already booked for that time. But there are some events that will allow you to double book. Those are broadly tournaments will permit you to do that because you might be eliminated from the tournament and you want to be able to go play something else without being locked out for the 8-hour duration of the tournament. or there are a handful of events that don't require you to be there the whole time.
Mm.
So they might be kind of drop in, drop out, or they might be very casual events or something like that. And so some limited number of events
Yeah.
will allow you to book against them.
Mm.
But in most cases, no. You are paying for your events, in a sense, both in your terms of your money, but in terms of your time.
Mm. And sort of a point to note about that is one thing that sometimes happens is, maybe I go in and I buy an event that's going to be from noon to 1 on Saturday or whatever. And then a couple weeks later, I read about this really cool board game that I want to try, and there's an event at that time. And so, but I already have my schedule blocked for that period of time. So if that happens between now and June 16th, which is the ship to me deadline. The deadline, and after that point, we have to lock down the fulfillment system to start shipping stuff, so we can't do refunds for event tickets after that. So if it happens before then, you can return your ticket now and then switch it for another event.
So what's probably the kind of clearest way to say that is
Yeah.
that when you buy a ticket, you
Yeah.
can return it later
Yeah.
to change your schedule. You just don't want to play that game anymore. You're not interested. You found something else better.
Right.
You're gonna go eat dinner. Like whatever reason comes up, you can return tickets. However, if you want to do that before the show, you have to do it before June 16th.
Right.
Because at that point we start to print tickets.
Yeah.
And once tickets have begun printing, the
Yeah.
schedule is locked.
Yeah.
You can't change your schedule until you arrive
get there.
on site at the convention, and then you just go to customer service, hand the tickets over, and we'll refund you at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So that's something to keep in mind. That does come up a lot. The other sort of, if you do get into that situation, the other thing to consider is that so you book event tickets in your name or in the name of someone who's in your friends and family list, and that will that will block their schedule or your schedule at that time. However, when you go to an event, we don't check what the name on the ticket is. So you can there's some events will allow you to buy multiple tickets under your own name. So maybe I really want to go to this one RPG event. I can get one ticket for me and a second one for me because I don't know what friend is going to go with me. I can hand that to them.
You might make us compete for the honor of playing with you.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to see who has pleased me or who has displeased me the least by that point.
So to answer the other question in chat, you can have they want to know, are tickets sent to your home or are they picking up at the event, and that depends on what you've chosen as your shipping method for your account. So if you chose Ship to Me, then any tickets that you purchase, whether they're for yourself or for anybody else, will be shipped to you. So to be clear, if you choose Ship to Me, all things that you purchase will be shipped to you, regardless of who they are for.
Yeah, and that cuts off at June 16th. So everything that you buy, even if it's multiple transactions or for multiple people, on June 16th, at the end of the day, all that stuff gets collected, and that would be sent to you in your one packet. After that point, anything you buy would go to will call, and in will call, things are sorted by recipient. So if I buy a ticket for me and a ticket for Derek, and it's set to will call, we would have to each go pick those up, and they would be in our separate packets to will call.
So Ship to Me, sent to purchaser before June 16th. Will call, and anything purchased after June 16th is waiting for the recipient of that item at will call. So we had another question in chat. Can a child wristband register for any events? And the answer to that is they can register or they can participate in kid events, but that's all. Anything else that they would need a ticket for, whether even if that's the costume contest or anything they would go to and participate in, they need to have a badge for and a ticket for. So what else have we got?
Okay. The event catalog / event finder. We've already gone through this a bit, so we're just going to dig in and show a couple examples of selecting a ticket and adding it to your wish list, and then we're going to go through the different actions you can take in your wish list to move around and prioritize events so that you're all ready for Sunday at noon Eastern when you'd like to submit it.
Let's see how far down my list I got. I'm just trying to. So we had built a wish list on Friday, and I was just double checking how far down my random list of events that I was interested in we had gotten through.
And this is a good detail to note here. When you're searching using the search bar in the catalog, If you put quotes around a term, then it's going to look for exactly that term. So if he had just typed in fading suns, then it would search both for fading and suns. But since if you know, like I'm looking for a thing that's called fading suns, you put it in quotes. It's like it's the same thing, on any search engine. But
So
it's,
So in this case, I was lucky; it came up either way.
Yeah.
But if I just search for fading, then there's a whole bunch of results that come up,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
So if you know the thing you are looking for, use quotation marks.
Right.
So I'm just going to add something else to my wish list to kind of show how this process works.
Earls, that's funny.
All right, we'll do that. Earl's Big Game Hunt.
Any pun, you got me.
So, this is Kettle of Fish. I played in the Fading Suns LARP of theirs before.
Oh, cool.
So, this is an event I've decided I want to participate in.
Let's do it.
Great. So now there are 30 tickets available because nothing has been sold yet. I can choose to get a ticket for everyone I know.
Yeah.
Okay. In which case it will default to only get tickets if they're all available. And what that means is that if I go to register for this and there's only one ticket available, if I have only get selected tickets or all of them, then if only one ticket's available, it's not going to get any of them because I might say, you know what, I want to play this LARP. But I only want to play it with you.
Yeah.
If I can't get both of this into this game,
Yeah.
then there's no point in me even playing it.
Yeah.
I'm at Gen Con to spend time with you, Jordan.
Exactly. Yes.
So
escape.
yeah. So then I would only want it if I can get both.
Yeah.
One ticket is not useful to me.
And how do you get these people on your list? How do I add other people to be on that list? Who can I buy tickets for?
So you can go to My Friends and Family, and you can add a friend. And then you would enter their email address, confirm their email address, and add them. They'll get an email message about it, and to confirm it. But once you have them added to your list, then they will show up here. Okay?
And as someone once
They'll
asked
also show
me,
up here.
why is friendship one-sided? Because that's how it is in life. And so if he adds me, I will also need to add him to be in my friends and family
If we
list.
both want to buy. But for example, it could be like, you're going to go to Gen Con, but you're not going to plan Gen Con.
Right.
A lot of groups I know have like the planner,
the leader.
and the planner is the one who needs to be able to buy for everybody.
Yeah.
So I can get a ticket for myself. I can get another ticket for myself because maybe we have a third friend who we don't know who it is, and then I can get a ticket for whoever's on my wish list here. If I do this, then and I don't select get all tickets. If only one ticket is available, it will still get one ticket. And then we'll just have to figure out who actually gets to go.
Yeah.
But let's say that I'm just going to go for this. I'm going to get those 2 tickets because I know that my friend is going to be busy at that time. So I have a ticket for myself and one for you. I'm going to add that to my wish list. And it's been added to my wish list. And it's at the end of my wish list. Okay? But let's say that I decided that, you know what, you and I talked, this wasn't on my initial list, but this is now my top game. We have to play this game together. Because with a pun like that, we can't, So I'm going to change the priority position to 1. If I can remember how to scroll on a PC. So I have now changed to 1, and you'll see that it is the top in position 1. So what's going to happen is it's going to then, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but it's going to go through in this order. So stuff I want is going to be at the top. So why don't we talk about that event finder a little bit?
Okay. And we got a couple questions here in chat. So first one, time is precious. I'd rather browse what's available instead of hunting and pecking with a search bar. Is there a way I can just see the whole event catalog?
Yes. So if you don't like using this and you want to browse in different ways, there's a couple of different ways to browse, depending on how kind of specific your interests are. You can browse by, deciding, look, I'm only interested in RPGs. So you might go to role-playing games. That's all I want. And then you might say, you know what? Not only that, but I only want 13th Age and 7th Sea and all flesh
must be eaten.
So those are the only RPGs that I'm in for. And now I'm only seeing events for those events. Okay. Further, it's not going to be super helpful now, but you can go to search options and you can preclude events that have been sold out because there's no point in you finding them.
Right.
You can also filter out events that have already happened. One of those is going to be, this one's going to be useful after Sunday. This one's not going to be useful until during the show. You can also filter for age requirement. So if you are going to have a kid, or if you don't want to play with kids, or you can also filter for the level of experience required. So if you're new at a game and you just want stuff where you're going to be taught the rules, then you can specify that there. So that does give you the option to narrow down the online list a fair amount. But if you want to kind of just get into the data, you can go to Experience, go to Event Basics, and go to How to Find Events. Now, this also is worth noting. It has how events work. So if you're catching up on the stream partway through, or you want to read along or something like that, or you have other questions, you can check how events work for some general info. Under How to Find Events, this has a link to the event finder. So if you ever can't find it here because of your mobile interface or something like that, it explains how the search functionality works a little bit. It explains the wish list, but it also has links to the spreadsheet files of the event system export. So keep in mind that these are only updated every 6 hours, so they're not 100% current, but most of the time they're pretty on track, because we don't usually have huge changes coming around that often.
And that's if you're just like, I'm going to break this out into Excel. I'm going to use my own pivot tables. I want the hard intelligence. Come straight here. Get it straight from the source.
That's basically what I do.
Yes.
So
and it's like seeing the Matrix.
Yep.
Derek, he just sits at his computer, and there's just the event data is just scrolling by him.
So what other questions did we have?
How can I add generic tickets, and are they refundable?
So generic tickets, we talked about this a little bit ago. Generic tickets will not be available until wish lists have been processed. So most likely Sunday night or Monday is when generic tickets will be available. They are refundable, but only to system credit, and only if you turn them in before 5 p.m. on Sunday, I believe. So that's why we recommended that folks, unless you know what you're going to use them for, we recommend maybe getting like 10 or so at a time, so that you have some just in case, but that you don't have a ton that will stress you out on Sunday.
Yeah, and between now and June 16th, when Shift Me closes, you can return event tickets yourself through your account, and then there's no processing fee. Or you can send us an email or call us, customer service, and they'll take care of that for you to a fee. If you return it by yourself through your account, it only goes to system credit, which you can use. So if you want to just switch a ticket quickly, and you're like, this is an $8 ticket at noon, but I wanted it at 1 instead, you could return it to yourself. You'd get the system credit back and then apply it to the other ticket. But you can only do that until June 16th.
We had another question pop up in chat. How do you view videos, older videos, while we're live now? And I don't have the Twitch interface up right now for me, but I'm pretty sure you should be able to click at the top. Sometimes some of those options are limited or hidden, depending on how wide a screen you have. But there should be a little button to kind of pull down your menu, and one of them should just link to videos and allow you to see older videos, and then like our faces will shrink down to a tiny little thing until you click on another video. And then a lot of these videos we end up putting up onto YouTube anyway. So you can always just check it out there.
So we'll have this in the video on demand on Twitch, and we'll also be posting on YouTube. And looks like Winged Horizon has a hot tip if you hold down Control and click video, so maybe give that a shot.
They'll open it up in a new tab, I think is what he's saying, or what they're saying. So the kind of tools you have here to find things that you want, or if you know what you want, type it in quotes. If you have been talking to the event organizer, then you can put in the game ID. Like for example, this is one that I had on my notes from the last time. So 19162-005.
He's doing this from memory. You ask him any event, he can live.
No, not at all. So, but like you might see an event organizer who says like, hey, go check out my event. Here's the ID. You put the ID in, it'll bring you to the event.
Yes, this is a choice event.
Yep, it's very popular. So you can just search by that. You can search by keyword. You can search by the event title, the game description, the game system. You can put all those kind of variables in there until you kind of find what you want. If you can also again filter by these different categories. Host is the company name or gaming group name. So if you know that you want to see all of Arc Dream Publishing because you really like their games, then just go and click on Arc Dream Publishing, and now this is a list of all of the events that they're running. whether seminars or RPGs or whatever else they might have going on that year. And if you keep scrolling, you'll see that there's no real end to the list. The events just continue forever and ever and ever until you reach the end. So, the filter options that you have here are category, that we all kind of talked about. There are game, which allows you to narrow down the game system.
Dungeons and Dragons has an ampersand in it.
It does indeed have an ampersand.
It's not spelled out.
Nope. It's also not DND.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that we have to update a lot of those manually. So sometimes you'll see things that are kind of spread out. If people put like an extra space in there or something like that, it can kind of mess up the filters. But we try to fix those when we find them. You can filter for a specific day. You know, maybe you're all busy. You're busy one day, or you only have a badge for one day. You can decide which day you want to see. If you know what times you are available, you can choose which start time you're willing to view events from. And that is basically, you know, what the default filter options are. So if you're searching online, that's what you have. If you want to download the Excel spreadsheet, you can do that. A number of people have downloaded the Excel spreadsheet and use that to run their own website, you know, or their own app. There's a couple different people out there who have designed some really cool interfaces to help people navigate events in a way that they really like. So if you're having trouble with something, just ask attendees, ask customer service. We'll help you kind of get oriented and find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
We had a question about an iPhone app. We do have one. It will be updated for 2019 shortly before the show, so you'll be able to use that to search for events on site.
Cool. Okay. Another common question. I can't find the events I'm looking for.
Sure. So,
in particular, for instance, right now, I'm looking for D&D Adventures League or Keyforge tournaments or etc.
Yep. So I made a note. Some of these are actually live right now, but they weren't live when the schedule initially came out. So something to keep in mind is that, you know, Gen Con is nearer than it seems to be in a lot of ways, but
77 days.
Yep, but there are still lots of people who are working on their event schedules. They're working on their final event details. They're going through a lot of different stuff, and not all those things are released with the initial event schedule that came out. A lot of things have been added. So, for example, I think, you know, just before we went live, I activated a ton of Paizo events. So if you're one of those people who's been really waiting for to know what kind of Pathfinder events are going to be happening, there are now 312 games from Paizo that you can start planning and putting on your wish list and you know, get ready for Sunday.
Yeah.
Some other notes like D&D, so the Adventurers League stuff that folks were looking for, that is now live under Baldman Games, because they are the group who runs that. So you go to host, you go to...
And you can do Control F in here and search down.
I recommend doing that.
Yeah, it's helpful.
So Baldman Games events are now live. Fantasy Flight had their Keyforge events. Those are all now live now. So you can register for some big key events there. Get it? Keyforge events. The Legend of the Five Rings, LCG. If I can get past Dritz. So there are some, you know, major tournaments now. The Cote and stuff like that for L5R is live. What else did I have a note to? Yep. So Magic events. A lot of the Magic events, the pastimes events, are still in progress. They're still being worked out, and those should be live as soon as they're able to confirm.
Yeah. So if there's something there that you're like, I know this is going to be there, and it's not there now, you know, check back again. We're continuing to add events.
So if you're ever looking for something that's not there, there's kind of 3 things that I recommend doing, depending on how involved you want to get. 1, check back later. Yeah. Because chances are it's been submitted. We're still working on it. Or 2, contact the group or organization you were hoping to see the event from. This could be the publisher. It could be, hey, Paizo, you know, where are your events? Or, hey, Pastimes, you know, what are you planning for doing for the show? And in a lot of cases, those companies will be like, hey, you know, we don't have all details worked out yet, or we've submitted it to Gen Con and we're working on it. But they can usually give you an idea of, like, we're going to do about what we did last year, or we're going to try something new, so keep an eye out, things like that. So there are some surprises, but a lot of times companies will share what they can at that time. Then there's also the third thing, which is if you don't see what you were looking for, be the game you want to see in the world and run it yourself. So this is certainly easier for board games and card games and things that are maybe portable. It's a little bit harder for miniatures games, RPGs, LARPs, and things like that. But a thing I really do want to emphasize is that if you are looking for a game, chances are somebody else at Gen Con is looking for that game too. So if you love a board game that's been out of print, or it's hard for you to play at home, then just consider kind of running it at the show. Bring a copy with you, maybe run 1 or 2 events. You don't have to commit your whole weekend to it, but especially a board game, a card game, a thing where everybody kind of plays in the same playing field. You should feel comfortable bringing that to the show and finding some other fans to share that with. For RPGs, I know that there are situations where people are they want to play, they don't necessarily want to run, or they're not as confident, and that can be a little more difficult. But even so, I believe that almost anybody can run almost any RPG. So sometimes you just kind of need to take the leap and give it a shot. So that's what I recommend. If you can't find your event, check back, ask about it, or run it yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. If you, and one thing to note too, it's like, at Gen Con there are lots of big companies that are running the events, and there may be the company that published the event is running it, but there's also a lot of just like other gamers, other people who are in the hobby, love a particular game, and they're running it. So if there's something that you don't see there and that you love and that you do, and you're looking for people who also love that, maybe next year you be the GM and you run those events.
And you can volunteer to run it for the company.
Yeah, that too.
You could volunteer to run it for a gaming group whose other events you like, because a lot of times there are independent gaming groups who run lots of different games. And that's a really good way to get used to running events, but have a support network of people who have a lot more experience to let you know what to do. So that's a good way to do it. But again, there are lots of people who they submit one game because they just happen to want to play that one game. So to answer another question from chat, is there a way to search for newly added events? And the unfortunate answer is not through this interface. You can't search for just new stuff or newly updated things. Through the spreadsheet that it comes out, you can sort based on last updated time, which is close to that. It will include events where a detail has changed, however minor, so it's not an exact one-to-one match, but some of the third-party websites that use that data will track events that are new or canceled. So there are a couple different ways to find that information. And one thing on that note that I really, really do strongly recommend that everybody does is on Saturday before registration happens, go through your wish list and go through the event database to, again, make sure that you have not missed any other new events, and that you have double-checked all your times, because it's possible that an event may have moved or changed from when you originally added it to your wish list. So you want to double-check. And to answer the question in chat, if other people have different tools that they use to navigate events, feel free to share them. We want people to play games. We're not super concerned with people building their own tools or sharing things like that. So if you've got a tool you like, share it with your friends.
Yeah, we're about it, Okay, so we're getting pretty close to wrapping up here. So if you do have...
That's what you think.
This is the rest of my day. No, so if you do have questions that you're holding in, or that you, waiting for the right time, go ahead and start getting those in. And then we're going to run through a couple frequently asked questions, and then we're going to do like a game day submitting your wish list run through.
Great.
And wrap up.
Awesome. Great. So let's do that.
Okay, cool. So these are the frequently asked questions that our customer service team sent over to us. So do I need a badge to register for events?
Yes. The only exception, you need a badge to be in the convention, and you need a badge to participate in any events. The only exception is that a child wristband is permitted in kid events only.
Yeah, sometimes a child can, if you have a kid with you, they can observe but not play in the game, and they don't necessarily get a seat in like a seated event.
No, I mean, it really, really depends on the nature of the event. Like no one, like if you're in the event hall and you're looking over the table and watching people play, no one's going to be concerned about that.
Yeah.
But if you want to sit and observe an RPG, Like that's it's a little bit weird.
Mm.
It will kind of depend. Like sometimes there'll be enough space for a friend who's just hanging out while you're playing a game to just hang out and watch.
Mm.
But it's really going to depend on the game, and you should presume that there won't be that.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is, then that's a great benefit.
Yeah, if your kid is old enough that they're really wanting to play games, then they may benefit from having a
Yep.
badge,
Mm-hmm.
being able to. Yeah. All right, and on that, yes, we've sort of covered that. Can my child 10 and under with a wristband get into events?
Only
if
kid
they're kid
events.
events. Is there a way to view events or download the catalog? As we said, he pointed you to the if you go to experience down to how to find event basics, how to find events. There's a link there. You can get either as a zip or as an Excel file, updated every 6 hours. Download it, run all your crazy Excel skills on it, or send it to your accountant roommate, whatever it takes.
I was not the accountant roommate. I wasn't that far.
Okay, yeah. I'm confused by the wish list. Can I put tickets in the wish list before event registration opens?
That is the whole point of the wish list. So the wish list is really, again, it's only designed to be used before registration opens.
Meaning right now.
Yep. It's a way for you to build a bunch of events that you are interested in with alternates, so that when your queue number comes up, if some of your top picks are not available, you'll still get something, as opposed to everybody trying to just manually go to the one event that they want to play.
Right, and we'll go over this in a minute when we do our kind of game day run through. But there are some events. There's many events at Gen Con. Some of them are really popular and sell out really quickly, and there are other ones that don't. So if you have events that you want, it's useful to be able to submit all those top picks at once in that wish list without having to have a big list and go in over and over and over again and try to hit submit.
Yep.
So this is more of a Sunday at noon question, but so you'll notice that when you pull this up right now, there's a countdown timer. So your wish list will be generated as soon as you've added your first ticket for the year. Your wish list will automatically be activated, and then you can get to it by when you're logged in, hover over your name in the top right, and go down to wish list.
I feel like a Vanna White over here.
Yes, it's wonderful. You're so elegant. And it's got a countdown timer that's already running, so you'll see the countdown until it opens. So when we get to noon, the question here is, the countdown hit 0 and my submit button is not enabled. What do I do?
Hit refresh.
It's okay to hit refresh. Please don't spam refresh. It's not going to make it come any faster.
Yep.
But if you've, if it's gotten to noon and you've noticed the countdown is at 0 and that gray button hasn't turned red yet,
just
ahead
give it a brief second.
Yeah, give it a second, but then so if we're ultimately putting too much load on the server is bad for everyone, but you absolutely can hit refresh. It's you don't. Need to,
it's important to note that your queue position is not tied to your computer.
Right.
So once you have submitted your wish list, you'll be told what your queue position is.
Yeah.
That should update, but even if it doesn't, even if you turn your computer off, even if a meteorite hits your house and destroys everything except you,
your event tickets
and the rest of your family, then your queue position is preserved. You can find another computer, sign in, and continue along your way.
Yeah. So once you hit submit, your whole wish list has been sent.
Yep.
So that doesn't mean you want to walk away though, because you'll still need to when we because then it'll add the events to your cart and you'll still need to check out.
Correct.
I accidentally bought the wrong tickets. What do I do?
Well, so as we discussed for returns, through June 16th, you'll be able to return online yourself to system credit. So if you know that if you bought the wrong ticket and you want to buy a different ticket, or you're going to buy something else, then system credit is totally okay. And you just go online, you return it, you'll get system credit, you go buy the thing that you wanted to do.
And system credit is it's non-transferable and non-refundable. So once you do it, you can't undo it. But it also doesn't expire. So if you still have some left over, you can use it at any future year.
But that is important to note. If you accidentally bought something and you just want to clear it, and you're not going to replace it with something else, or you bought an expensive ticket and you're going to replace it with a cheap event, and you want the money back, then you just need to contact customer service via email. Be very clear with what you want to refund, and they'll issue a refund to the credit card you used to pay for it.
Exactly.
And then after June 16th, there are no refunds or returns until you arrive on site at the convention. And then you just bring your tickets to customer service, and they'll refund you there.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to, for our final trick, we're going to do a quick kind of game day run through. It's let's all now travel in time to Sunday. This Sunday. Sunday. Just before noon Eastern time. So you've built your wish list. You've spent all this time. You've downloaded the spreadsheet. You've applied all your crazy pivot tables. You have really dug in and found the exact things you want. You added all these events to your wish list. You have correctly placed Earl's Big Game Hunt as your number one priority. And
there's a lot of nobility in my list. I'm just noticing.
Yeah, I think it says something about you, but we'll save that for the. That's a different
psychoanalysis afterward.
We did just get a couch in the office, which is a big deal for us, and I do think that there may be a psychoanalysis stream in the future.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes over.
Yeah. Okay, so a couple things to note about your wish list. So it's Sunday morning, and you're gearing up to submit. So what are the things you should be thinking about when you're looking at your wish list, double checking it before you're about to submit?
So your wish list should be organized in the order that you care about these events. It doesn't need to be in chronological order. You can view it in order of start time if you kind of want to see what your overlaps are going to be.
Yeah.
So if I do this, I can see that my Thursday morning is real, book solid. And that's just because of the way that we built this wish list pretty willy-nilly.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is that by priority, this is how it's going to go through in order to process. And what it means is that when your queue position comes up in the processing, the system will go through your entire wish list in order and try to get you tickets that are available. So what that means is when our spot comes up, it's going to come to Earl's Big Game Hunt. It's going to try to get a ticket. If it gets a ticket, then great. If there's no tickets available, there's no tickets to get. If we don't have a valid badge, there's no tickets. It'll just do all those checks for us. Next, it will go to City Beneath. And as long as I'm available at that time, it'll give me a ticket. And as long as one is available, then it's going to go to the next event. Then it's going to go to the next event, and then the next event. So if you look here, let's see, where's our first conflict? So we have Friday at 10. Here, I think this is it. Yep. So what'll happen is it goes through this. Let's say that there's I get queue spot number 1. Let's say. So there's tickets available for everything. I'm going to get one ticket to Earl. I'm going to get one ticket to City Beneath. I'm going to get another ticket for City Beneath, and then I'm going to get a ticket to the Demise of Duke White Talon, and then there's this City Beneath event that conflicts with the Duke of White Talon. So what's going to happen is I'm not available to get a ticket at that time. So it's just going to skip to the next event.
So this is the important thing about priority. If you really would have preferred City Beneath over the Demise of Duke White Talon, then you would have wanted City Beneath to be above it in priority order.
Correct. Because you can only get tickets to one event at any given time, you have to make sure that you don't put an event you really wanted lower in your priority.
Right.
So put them in the order that you want to get them. If you had to choose between two events, put the event that you like more, that you would have picked, higher with a lower number in your priority. So the system will just kind of continue through that process. It'll just go through all the events doing that check. Anytime that it can add a ticket, it'll add a ticket. If it can't add a ticket because the event is sold out or because it conflicts with something, it'll skip it and move on to the next event. And then at the end, you'll get a report that says, hey, your wish list was processed.
So after I've hit submit, wait for a couple minutes.
It'll tell you that you'll have a queue position.
Okay.
You'll see what the queue position is. You'll wait a little while. You should see the queue number go down. But it might take an hour, it might take 2 hours, it might take 45 minutes, depending on where your queue position is for your wish list to get processed. And then once it's done, you'll get this report here that says your wish list was processed. Click here to see the results.
And it'll just pop up on the page.
It'll be at the top. Well, I guess you can't see where I'm pointing, but it'll be at the top, here is where it'll say your wish list was processed. Do you want to see the results?
Okay, great. So once your wish list has been processed, this is important to note, that doesn't buy the tickets.
Correct. So they're all added to your cart,
Right.
and you'll click on to see the results. And when you click on it, it'll tell you like, hey, these tickets we added to your cart.
Right.
And then, but it'll say, no, these tickets we didn't add to your cart because there was no ticket available, or because there was a conflict, or because a valid badge was missing, things like that. So you'll see why you were not able to get a ticket, and then you'll have the option to check out. So then you go to your cart. Everything that was added is in your cart, and you have 2 hours to check out. So that does mean, like, if you submit your wish list and you step away to go get a sandwich, and your wish list is processed right away, it's not like you had 7 minutes to figure it out. You have 2 hours, and then your cart will be flushed. So make sure that you have actually checked out, entered your payment information, and gotten a confirmation on the site, like, that you can see. You can also, like, once you register, you'll be able to see right here, all of your events will kind of show up on your homepage with your badge and stuff like that. If it doesn't show up there, if it doesn't show up in your transactions history that you have purchased it, then you do not have it yet.
Right.
So make sure to do that so that you don't end up kind of missing out on something that you thought you had reserved.
Right. You want to make sure you've submitted your wish list, seen the results that's in your cart, and then fully checked out.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's about it. So once you purchase your tickets, as Derek said, the ways you can verify that are, if you go to your My Transactions page, you see a record of everything that you've been charged for. If you go to your My Packets page, this is where it's your fulfillment packet, so how things are going to be printed and sent to you. And the important thing to note on this page is the default shipping method setting. So right now Derek is set to will call. You can change the setting to ship to me all the way up until June 16th. And it's a $10 fee for shipping, but it includes everything you bought through your account until June 16th. So you can change that on your own at any point until then. And in Derek's case, since he's a game master, he would also see his game master badge we picked up from GMHQ. Other things will be listed below it differently. If someone else has bought you a ticket, and let's say that I have bought Derek and I tickets to go to
nice
Earl's, it would be a very hypothetical situation. And I
You're
have decided,
hypothetically nice.
and I have decided to do shipping. Then that ticket will be mailed to me. So when Derek went to his packets page there, it would say items you can pick up from Jordan, and that's where that would appear.
But if you had selected will call, then it would say something I could pick up from will call.
Correct. So if you want to verify your items by how you're going to get them, that's what this My Packets page is for.
It is worth noting that on the day of registration, email confirmations are not the most reliable method. They can be delayed. A lot of times we will actually delay the processing of email notifications that go out to preserve kind of server load.
Right.
So that's why the My Packets and My Transactions pages are the way to verify 100% did a transaction happen. So email confirmation is something you can kind of rely on later.
Absolutely. And, as always, if you run into any problems, shoot us an email at customerservice@gencon.com, or you can give us a call. Our phone number is also on the site. So that's everything. That's about everything I've got, unless you had any final notes or pieces of wisdom to pass on.
No, I mean, like, the pieces of wisdom are, again, there's a lot going on. You're not going to do it all. Don't worry about that.
Right.
Find the things that you want to do, pick a couple of them, focus on that, and just enjoy the rest of the show. If you are looking for advice on what to do, where to find things, what to check out, you like games but you're not sure what games, or you've been playing one game for a long time, you want to branch out from that, but you are not sure what else to look at, then ask your fellow gamers. We have our forums. You can go to our forums, you can ask. I guarantee that if you are on Twitch watching us, you are probably part of some online community that likes games. You can ask us on Twitter. You can go to the forums for the company that you like, for the game you like. You can go to the subreddits for those things, and just say, hey, I'm going to Gen Con. I like this thing. What else should I check out? Or what are the events that you think are really important? Or what is the can't miss events that people love? And gamers will love to share their list of what they think are the top tier events with you. And then you can kind of research that and pick what you would like. But Gen Con is a very kind of welcoming community. And if you say, hey, I'm new to this, what should I do? Or I've been coming to Gen Con for 10 years, but I've never played in a game. What should I go check out?
Mm-hmm.
Someone will give you an idea of something that you can go experience.
Mm-hmm.
So just ask.
Absolutely. All right. And with that, we're going to sign off. This will be available again on the Twitch video on demand, and we'll also post it on YouTube. So stay tuned.
Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. And again, if anybody has any questions, email customer service, hit us up on Twitter, on Facebook, things like that.
All right. Bye.